When you have a product or a service that you offer, it's important that your customers and potential customers can easily recognize your brand. It's even better when you have an easily recognizable logo that people can associate with your work. Looking at most of these logos, your average person on the street is going to know what company is behind that logo, even without the name of the company being present. And even if it's not totally recognizable on its own to a common person on the street, a good logo just gives you a way to distinguish your work from someone else's. Since I'm working on starting a side business to finally start selling some of the things I make in my shop, I decided it was time for me to have my own logo. And along with that logo, I wanted to make a branding iron to put on some of my bigger pieces. I got the idea to make my own branding iron after watching another YouTube video on the Switch and Lever channel. I'll provide a link to that video in the description. There are companies that offer services to make the branding iron for you, but they're kind of expensive. Rockler offers one, and it's about $220 to get a logo-style branding iron that's custom to whatever your logo happens to be. I didn't want to spend that much money. So the first step is to grab a piece of scratch paper and a pencil and just start sketching. And just try to think of things that can in some way represent your brand or your identity, or you're trying to come up with something that can link whatever this symbol ends up being to your work. I went through several iterations before I finally found one that I liked. I knew I wanted the logo to incorporate my initials, J and R, and I haven't really picked a company name just yet, but J and R will be part of it. And finally, this is what I ended up with. So after sketching this on paper, I then needed to create it digitally. I used Adobe Illustrator to draw mine so that I could create a vector graphic. Once I was happy there, I then needed to model it in 3D. So now I know what my logo looks like, or what I want it to look like. But to actually turn this into a branding iron, I need to take this from something digital and make it into something made out of metal. To do that, as recommended in that Switch and Lever video, I was going to have Shapeways.com print it for me, 3D print it. And they can print in a whole huge variety of materials, lots of which are plastic, which of course for a branding iron isn't going to do you any good. But they can print in stainless steel, which is the route I went. To be able to get something 3D printed, you need to be able to supply a file that shows the part you want to have built in 3D. There are a lot of programs out there that can do this. The one I went with is called 12-3D Design, made by Autodesk. From some of the things I've read, it kind of sounds like Autodesk is sort of phasing out this program, but it worked fairly well for what I needed. It was a little confusing at first, but I did find that Shapeways offers tutorials on YouTube for free for this program, and I'll provide a link to those in the description as well. So after watching those tutorials, I opened a new project and imported the file that I had created in Adobe Illustrator. I had to adjust the scale and try to figure out the depth that I wanted the letters to be, and then I needed to create a round surface to join those two that would essentially be the main body of the stamp. And I went for about a 1-inch diameter on that round circular portion and made it about 1/8 of an inch thick. In the center of that, I made a cylinder that was about 1/4 of an inch in diameter and about 1/2 an inch long. In retrospect, I should have gone just a hair under 1/4 of an inch and made that cylinder a little bit longer, just to make it easier to add threads to it. My plan was to thread this for 1/4 20 thread, but when the stamp was delivered, that cylinder was just a hair too thick. Once I had all these shapes in there and joined together, I saved that file and exported it. I created an account on Shapeways.com and uploaded the file. When you do this, you want to make sure that you double check the scale. It'll give you a projected size of what it thinks it's going to end up as. And the price varies considerably depending on how large of an item you're having printed, especially in stainless steel. And it ended up being about $18 to get this one piece printed. Once you pay for your part and have that all submitted, then you wait. For mine, it took about 2.5 weeks after I submitted what I wanted until I received it in the mail. And this is what I ended up with. It Turned out pretty good, I thought, except the face of the letters was just a little bit rough, so I went through several grits of sandpaper and smoothed that out. I'm not sure that it would have really made a difference had I not smoothed it out. I just wanted to make sure that it was as crisp as I could get it, so that once I apply heat and try to actually mark a project, I want those letters to be as crisp as I can get them. And I was worried that the roughness on the face and along the edges might kind of soften the edges and maybe add a little texture to the faces that I didn't want. And in the end, it turned out nice and shiny. Stay tuned for the next video, and I'll show how I made the rod and connected the stamp to the rod. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, go ahead and hit like, and please subscribe to see more of the things I do in my shop. See you later.